You ever have one of those moments where a stranger looks you up and down and decides, in a single blink, exactly what box you fit in? Yeah, that happened. First class with that sweatshirt? Sure you are, sweetheart. That's what the gate agent snapped right before she ripped my passport in half at the boarding gate, in front of a sea of travelers whose only crime was being in the right place to see a train wreck up close. What Brenda didn't know, what nobody knew, was that the woman in sweatpants she just humiliated wasn't some nobody. I was a federal investigator with the power to ground her airline, and my next move was about to set off one of the wildest scandals in airline history. It was supposed to be a regular day, or as regular as it gets when you just finished 10 days living undercover in Miami, auditing airport security. Operation Safe Skies, my own brainchild, designed to see if airlines really followed the rules or just faked it for the paperwork. I played every role: that weak tourist, business exec, nervous flyer trying to blend in, spot cracks, and file reports nobody would thank me for. All I wanted now was to get home to D.C., curl up in my own bed, and forget I ever heard the words boarding zone. So I dressed down for the trip: gray joggers, my old Howard University sweatshirt, sneakers. Just one black woman in the crowd, looking tired, minding her business, holding a first-class ticket I damn well earned. Atlanta Airport was buzzing: families herding kids, business guys in matching Navy suits, old folks splitting a bag of pretzels. And Brenda, with her helmet of blonde hair and that permanent scouring Gate B32 like it was her private kingdom. I watched her pour sugar on a white family, cooing over their kids, then turn around and snap at an elderly Indian man. It'll board when it boards. Listen for the announcement. The kind of authority flex you see when someone's got just enough power to be dangerous. Then, boarding started. I walked up, handed over my digital boarding pass in U.S. Passport routine, right? Not for Brenda. She clocked me up and down, her eyes cold, then flicked through my passport with that dismissive snap. Passport for a domestic flight, she said, loud enough for everyone to hear. I kept it cool. It's my primary ID. Standard practice. She held my passport up, twisted in the light, then with a laugh, tapped the photo. Funny, you look happier in this picture. Doctor of Philosophy? Let me guess, art history. The microaggressions stacked up, paper cuts that hurt more than they should, but I'd seen it all before. My doctorate is in aeronautical engineering, I told her, letting the calm drop just a bit. Is there a problem? Or may I board? But Brenda's smirk sharpened. There's a problem with me believing this is real. Then she leaned in and hissed. People like you can be very resourceful. Fake IDs, fake everything. The temperature dropped. This wasn't just a power trip. It was a racist broadside in full view of 50 witnesses. I could have lost it. Maybe another day I would have. But protocol and pride kept me steady. Ma'am, scan the document, call your supervisor, but don't stand here and slander me. She didn't want procedure. She wanted a scene. And then she ripped my passport in two. The sound was so loud it killed every other noise in the terminal. Two halves fluttered onto the counter. My face and the American eagle split down the middle. You could hear a pin drop. Brenda puffed up, chest out like she'd just defended the flag. But she'd made a fatal mistake, turned an invisible woman into the sharpest weapon in the room. I fixed her with a stare. You've just destroyed a federal document. That's a felony. Title 18, Section 1543. Up to 25 years in prison. For the first time, Brenda blinked. It was a fake, she tried. But her voice was hollow. I stepped back, phone in hand, called my director. I'm invoking a code black. I have an active security breach and willful destruction of federal property by an airline agent. Get TSA and FBI here now. The room vibrated with tension. The businessmen went silent. A young woman in line started filming. Brenda's face crumbled. You're nobody, she whispered, desperate. My name is Ebony Reed, Senior Field Inspector, Federal Aviation Administration. The words landed like hammer blows. You've just given us the perfect example of exactly the kind of systemic rot I was sent here to root out. Right then, the station supervisor, Frank Miller, came storming in, trying to play fixer. Ma'am, I'm sure we can sort this out. I shut that down fast. Your time to sort this out is over, Mr. Miller. This gate is now a federal investigation scene. Police and federal agents rolled up, snapping gloves, collecting evidence. Frank's face went from angry to ashen as the scale of the disaster dawned on him. Brenda? She melted, pleading. I thought it was fake. I was protecting the flight. Agent Shun started the questions, and it was brutal. How many times had Brenda been trained to verify documents? How many times did she actually use the equipment? 0, turns out. She'd gone on a feeling, and that feeling was about race and a sweatshirt, nothing more. When pressed, she cracked. I want a lawyer, was all she had left. Frank tried to wriggle out too, but the evidence was damning. 14 complaints against Brenda in 5 years. Most were people of color or with disabilities, all counseled away by Frank. Now, that pattern was coming for both of them hard. And then the real twist dropped. My team's full-scale audit blew open decades of dirty laundry. Falsified maintenance records. Minorities shuffled into the worst seats. Mechanical inspections signed off by people on vacation. This wasn't about a plight, it was a rotten orchard, and Brenda's act had cracked it wide open. Captain Hayes, the pilot, was stunned. 25 years flying, never saw this coming. But I told him straight, integrity isn't passive. Looking the other way is how this rot grows. The media latched on fast. The young woman's phone video hit every news feed in America. Ascend Air got slammed with fines, years of federal oversight, and a stock price that fell off a cliff. Brenda was arrested, hit with federal and civil rights charges. Perp walked in front of the cameras. Frank took a plea, testifying against her. That airline became a national symbol for what happens when prejudice meets power and finally loses. 6 months later, I stood before Congress, showing the torn passport as proof that racism in a uniform isn't just ugly, it's dangerous. Security is compromised the moment we start judging travelers by the way they look. I told them, and I meant every word. People thanked me, but honestly, I just did my job. One woman refusing to shrink, forcing a corrupt system into the daylight. That's what real karma looks like. Not magic, just consequences delivered with the full weight of truth and the law. Now, let me ask you, when you see someone abused by power, do you speak up or let it slide for the sake of an easier day? Who else do you think hides behind a badge or a title, playing gatekeeper? Drop your thoughts below. Was justice served, or did the system just find a new way to bury its mistakes? Let's talk about it. And if you want more true stories that expose the ugly and the courage to fight it, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for listening.